is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started in just a second here. Just a reminder, if there's any questions or anything, you can type them into the window as we're running through this, and I will address those questions at the end, or if they seem relevant, we can discuss them right then and there as you type them in. So someone just give me a quick confirmation that they can hear and see me. Type it into the chat window there. Should be seeing a PowerPoint presentation there. All right, looks like we are good to go. We'll go ahead and get started then. So welcome to the presentation on Layer Boss. This is a new tool set in the new CIM Manager suite. These are a set of tools that are geared for CAD managers or duties associated with CAD management. My name is Brian Lewandowski. I'm the Civil Product Manager at CTC Software, and I'm going to run you through this today. So I've got a bit of an outline I want to show you in PowerPoint here, and then we're going to jump into Civil 3D and take a look at how this actually functions. So the CIM Manager suite, what is it? It's a set of CAD Manager tools for use in Civil 3D and in AutoCAD, and it is that entire ribbon you see down below. And what we're going to be talking about is Layer Boss. But across the entire CIM Manager suite, we're dealing with things like automatic template creation or editing. We're looking at syncing through Excel different CAD standards, and we want to do that through Excel because it's a much faster, easier interface to work with. And the types of things we can work with are all those things that define those standards, be it layers, line types, styles, description keys, figure databases, and so on. Like I said, today we'll be focusing on Layer Boss. So what is Layer Boss? Why do we care? First off, it's about managing your standard layers as well as your Civil 3D object layer settings. It's giving us a quicker way to do this. And if we step back and think about it, what makes for good productive CAD users? One is they need to understand how to use the tools, but they of course need good templates. And so creating and maintaining and editing those templates are quite important. And the problem with so much of this is that layer management and that template management is pretty slow, it's pretty tedious, and you often don't have time for it, right? And so what we're after here is developing a tool set that allows you to get in there, make those updates, make those changes, even create that new template if you have to, so that you can get in there, get out, and move on with your other work. Because let's face it, guys, most of us doing this kind of work, we also have to do production. We're perhaps doing some IT work as well, right? And so anything we can do to take this template management and the standards management piece and make it faster is going to be beneficial to all of us. So what does layer manager and object layer settings look like today? Well, that's what you see on the left there. And while it's not a terrible interface, it's considerably slow from a CAD management standpoint. When you're trying to delete out layers, for example, you don't know where they're being used. You're trying to manage your object layer settings down below, and you can really only kind of do it one at a time. You know, a change that you want to be able to jump in there and take 5-10 minutes on ends up taking you an hour because it's so slow and clumsy in the native interface. So how do we speed this up? How do we deal with this tedious interface? What about existing projects? The standards updating in some of those projects can be real slow. And what if I'm tasked with making a new template? Well, that's a big undertaking. We can speed that up quite a bit with Layer Boss. So Layer Boss allows us to edit the layer manager and the object layers settings from Excel. We can sync from Excel. And what we can do in Excel, well, we can work a lot faster in that than we can in that native interface. So we can be adding things from an Excel spreadsheet, or we can be syncing them. We can update drawing standards. Perhaps we've redefined a layer set or updated a layer set, and you want to update that or push that to existing project drawings. We can do that as well. And the exports, what we're going to do is, and I'll show you here in a bit, we can first start with exporting these layer settings from an existing template or drawing. We get a very smart Excel export with drop-down menus and all sorts of things like this. So we're going to go through a few different use cases here. This is the UI for Layer Boss. There's a set of tools for dealing with the object layers, the Civil 3D object layers, and also a set for dealing with the layer manager itself. And so we're going to look at just using this tool set for maintaining templates. Getting in there, making quick changes with some layer settings, that kind of thing. How do I do that, and how does that, is it faster for me with Layer Boss? And then we'll look at more of an overhaul of our templates, or perhaps it's just creating a brand new template is the way to go. We'll look at a more robust approach and what Layer Boss can do for that. And then finally, we'll show you how you might use Layer Boss to update project standards. Again, you made a bunch of layer property changes, colors, plot styles, you name it, and you want to push that to one or more drawings automatically. And you want to do it with that exact same Excel sheet that you're using to maintain your templates in the first place. That's what we can do as well with this. So let's jump into Civil 3D and take a look at this. So I'm going to start off, and I'm just going to make a drawing from my design template. And one of the things I want to do first is to set up my maintenance mode, right? The first use case here is using Layer Boss to maintain my templates, right? And so there's a number of things I can do in the Layer Manager, but what we want to do is work from Excel because it's a much faster interface. So first thing, we're going to come up here and we're going to run the export DWG layers command. It allows me to grab my current drawing. I could grab some XREFs as well as some additional drawings I add in there. I could also filter the layers that get exported using layer filters or simple text filters like that, for example. We're going to export the whole list because we just want to simply build our Excel file for our current template. And here's what I mean by the smart exports. The line types that are in the drawing get exported with this. The plot styles that are in the drawing get exported, so on and so forth. Okay. So what kind of changes might I be making in here? It might be simple little things. Let's go ahead and sort this. Maybe there's a few of these building layers we don't want anymore. I'm simply deleting these. Perhaps if we scroll down the list here, maybe some of these V site layers, those aren't being used. Just kind of cleaning up my template. Little maintenance things like this. Certainly any other major changes I can do very easily in Excel. Perhaps it's some color changing. We want to set all of our annotation to white, so on and so forth. So what does that look like? I simply save that file. I come back into Civil 3D and I run the create edit DWG layers. And I get another interface where I can simply point to that Excel file, and then I can update my current drawing, or I could actually browse to another one as well. And then I get options down here for syncing the drawing layers. And what that means is if I've deleted layers from the Excel sheet, will they also delete from the template itself? That's what I want to do. If I set it to add drawing layers, it wouldn't delete anything. It'd be a way to just quickly import a bunch of layers without deleting anything that didn't reside in that Excel sheet. I can hit next. And what I get here is a report of what it has created for me. So I've got new layers. I didn't create any new layers, but those would show up there. I've got updated layers. Here you can see that's where I changed all those colors to white. I've got a slew of unchanged layers. Again, I'm just making some maintenance tweaks here. And then deleted layers. You'll notice there's nothing under here. And they show up under cannot delete. We'll address that in a second. I also have duplicate layers. This deals with the fact that Excel is a very flexible interface. What if, for example, I happen to have duplicated a layer in here and I've got it in here twice, right? If I save that Excel file and I come back to here and I reload this, what we're going to see now is that we have duplicate layers show up here. So it's going to check it for me, right? It's Excel. I can put anything in those rows. And so it's smart for me. So it'll tell me that there's a duplicate. I can simply come back to my Excel sheet, make sure I've updated that, and then run the reload back here, and it refreshes it. Now if we come down here, cannot delete, there's some references. Basically, these layers are being used in styles, right? That's what's going on. And I can jump into these layers, for example. If I want to know exactly where that's being used, I can click this little button here and it launches Template Tracker. That's actually another tool set. We've got a webcast with a deep dive on that coming up in a few weeks. But we've built that right into Layer Boss here so I can use this. If I want to know where a building footprint is being used, I can click on that and it tells me, oh, it's being used in a building style. I could launch into those style layers, or I could simply swap that out for a building. And when I close out of that, you're going to see that refresh, and now it's going to tag a building footprint for deletion. So now down here I can come and say, well, I want to set those for a building because I know that's what they're supposed to be. I'm going to uncheck ignore. If I left ignore on, it simply wouldn't try to delete them. And then with the V site layers, I want to swap those out for layer 0. So I simply uncheck ignore. And I click OK. And if I open my layers dialog box, we'll see that I have trimmed out those A building layers. They are stripped from the styles. And we're just down to A building. And if I scroll down here, we should see those V site layers are gone entirely. They were swapped out with layer 0 wherever they were being referenced in those styles. So the combination of Layer Boss with Template Tracker is a very powerful tool for dealing with not just maintaining these layers, but understanding where they are embedded across all of your styles. I know those of you out here who work on templates, build templates, or simply maintain them. You waste a lot of time trying to figure out where those layers, where those styles are being used. You can take something that might be simple that turns into a 2-hour job just because you don't know where those layers are being used. We can address that really quickly here. Makes it easy to work with. So those are the that's the layer manager. What about the object layers themselves? And what I'm talking about there are the drawing settings. So if we take a look at that, that's all these settings in your drawing settings under the object layers tab, and it defines what layers objects land on. Now this, to me, is an even a worse interface because I can only work one row at a time, and I might want to be making a bunch of adjustments here to this stuff, right? This is pretty slow going in here. We can then just simply export instead to Excel, export the current drawing, and then open that up in Excel right away. And what we get again is a nice intuitive interface. So now I can come in here and do things like set my suffix accordingly, and maybe this is like this. And if I want that setting for all of these, it's quick dragging and dropping, right? What if I want to assign perhaps C table to all my table type layers? Well, I can open up the Find window, right? This is Excel. There's no limit to what I can do in here. And now I can simply grab and assign C table to all of these different table type objects. There's quite a bit of them. Just running through my search here, right? Anything you can do in Excel, you can now use to manage your object layers or your layer manager. This is Excel, so it's very flexible. So what if I happen to kind of fat finger something here, like let's say on this corridor section I bumped that, and right now there's a typo in there. Well, this title corresponds to the settings in Civil 3D. What is Layer Boss going to do with that? Well, let's try it out. Let's go ahead and save this. Come back to Civil 3D and run our Create Edit Object Layers. I want to go out and browse to that Excel file. Then I can run this on the current drawing, or again browse to a different drawing. And there's a checkbox here for Create New Layers. That C table layer, that may have been a new layer. Well, I'm not quite sure, so let's just check on Create New Layers. And when I hit Next, you're going to see again a report with information. Now there's a couple things here. Right off the bat, we notice the red row there, and what it's telling me, there's an error. In fact, I can't even proceed. If I try to hit OK, it says object type column contains invalid entries. Well, that's pretty clear to see now, but I might have missed it before, so I can simply make sure I didn't fat finger anything. I can remove that capital N, save this, come right back to Civil 3D, reload that, and now that error is gone. And you'll also see in blue here where I've made changes, and it's actually going to create a new layer called C table, and it's going to assign that in all those different areas. And of course, where there are changes made or updates made, it's going to be green, where I've got suffix and wildcard set on many of those settings. So let's hit OK to that. And if we go and look, let's make sure it did what we expected it to. It added all those wildcards. We have C table added to many of those. If I sort by layer here, we have C table added to many of those table options. And again, there's no way, I'm trying to shift select here. I can't do mass editing in here, so it's a pretty slow interface. And again, you're not necessarily doing this every day, right? Sim Manager Suite is for CAD management type duties. But like we said, you often don't have a lot of time for this. So if I can take a 4-hour job and turn it into 10 minutes, if I can take a week-long job like building a new template and turn that into a day, that makes a big difference on what I'm able to accomplish. All right, let's move on. We talked about a second use case, right? This was just kind of tweaking and editing things and showing how I can do that more quickly. What if I'm going for a larger overhaul and really perhaps creating a new template? I'm going to go ahead and start a new drawing from another template I have here. And I'm going to export this. And I've got a bunch of layers in here already and styles and all kinds of things. But perhaps what I'm after is I want to build a new template that doesn't have any of the V layers in it. I want to strip all that out. And I don't like road in all my layers, for example. And I don't do any rail work, for example. So this is a pretty robust change I'm looking at making here. Layer Boss helps a ton with this as well. So let's look at that, how that might work. First, we want to export this list again. I'm going to export this. And now let's take advantage of that layer filter. I said I only wanted the civil layers. So instead of the 194 layers, I don't want the V layers. So I can just type in C- and export only this. So I run an export to Excel. It prompts me to open it again. I'll open it right in Excel. And now I see this interface, of course, to work with. Now, what else can we do, right? If it's not just little tweaks, perhaps it's a big overhaul. Let's do some of that and see how that might work. What would you have to do in Civil 3D if you wanted to get rid of road in every single one of the road layers? Or you wanted to switch out a number of these prefixes or suffixes or text strings in your layers. You'd be doing it one by one layer at a time. Well, of course, in Excel, I can run find replacing, so I can swap out dash road with nothing. And if I run a replace on that, now I change 77 layers out all at once. Get rid of that C layer, we don't need that anymore. And coming down here, perhaps I don't even run any mass haul diagrams. I don't even need those layers, just delete them out. What about my profile layers? Well, I don't need a lot of layer control on that, so perhaps I want to strip that down to just my C prof layers, and maybe I want to keep my C prof text layer. And I can delete that out of there, right? And already we see the V layers are gone because we stripped those out on the export. So all these kinds of adjustments I can make. We said I don't do any rail work, so I can remove those layers. Or maybe I'm adding some new layers in here. It's Excel, so it's very easy to type in here. So maybe I've got some fiber layers. See fiber text, see fiber line, so on and so forth. Grabbing these default settings, I can drag them down, specify that for my layers. Perhaps different line types are to be set for this. Right, very fast, easy to work with. And I've trimmed down my layer list to 117 layers in a matter of just a few minutes. Same thing with these table layers. Perhaps I don't need all those separate table layers. I just want C anno table. And finally, I don't want text and anno. I just want to pick one, so I can come back up here to my replace and say, let's replace the word text with anno. 22 replacements. Again, really, really fast changes that we can make in here. And there's a number of tools on the market I know that can export like this to Excel, but what they're all missing is the ability to dynamically push this stuff back into your drawings and into your templates, and in a way that gives you detailed reporting on what's happening, and so you can make adjustments on the fly as you import that back in. So let's go ahead and go back to Excel now and see what this looks like. Here's that drawing I made that update from. Now, should I just import this back in here? Well, let's take a look. At some point, you're making so many changes that it's basically a new template. If I run that sync with that Excel file, that new one I just updated, and I hit the next command, what we're going to see is there's quite a few updates here. Here's a lot of new layers. There's 61 new layers. There's some duplicate layers in there. And then there's a whole bunch of them, 140 of them, that I can't find the references to. Now, to me at this point, okay, let's go ahead and make a new template. Now, I can easily go through here and assign these layers what I want them to be. And that works much like we did with the maintenance option. But perhaps you're wanting to just start with a blank slate. And so what does that look like? Instead of using this drawing, we're going to go ahead and make a new drawing from the ACAD template. And what we see in here, of course, is there's 0 layers right now. There's nothing at all. So if we run the create edit DWG layers command in here, simply browse to that newly exported layer properties manager, right? So I've done an export from my old template or old drawings. I've made a bunch of adjustments in Excel, and I'm going to push that back into a new template. If I hit next, what we're going to find is, of course, a whole bunch of new layers, 110 new layers. There's that mistake I made again, C anno, no problem. Jump back into here. Make sure I'm sorted by my layer name. And there is that duplicate of CIM. Something must have happened when I did the find replacing. Not a problem at all. It tells me the issue. Come back here, save it, and update it. And I come back here and run a reload, and now the duplicate layers are gone. Found one it cannot delete. That's layer 0. Of course, we can't delete that. We don't want to delete that. And here, of course, is all those new layers. So we can hit OK to that. And it's given me another area about the layer plot style column contains invalid entries. Right here we've got the plot style find set in here. So maybe that's not defined in this template already. So maybe I'm not ready for my plot style settings yet. I can set those to medium, for example. And here's the beauty of this. You can work with both these at the same time. Have Excel open, have this open, make those edits, make those tweaks, understand what it's going to do to your drawings and your template, and hit OK. And now in this once empty template or drawing, we now have all these layers brought in with all those settings specified. Okay, really quick way to work, right? There's those new fiber layers. You can see road is stripped out of everything. We don't have text and anno, we only have anno, right? How many years do your users go by where we're just working with these templates that are kind of clumsy and confusing, and the layer naming doesn't make sense, and right? And how often do you just leave it because you don't have time to work on it? That's what we're trying to address with Layer Boss here. You no longer have to have these half-baked templates. You can make really, really nice templates, maintain them, keep them up to date as they need to be changed with different project types or different workflows that are developed at your company. So let's look at the object layers, right? This is that new empty template. If I go look at my object layers, I haven't set any of that right now. So let's export what we've got here and show how building out a brand new template might look for setting the object layers. Prompts me to open it. I'll open that Excel file right away. And now I get those object layers. Now here it gets really easy. Perhaps there's some new layers I want to make. I don't have to worry about it. I can just type them in right here. Typing in the suffix. Give me a second here. Excel isn't letting me type. Let's run that export one more time. Excel was freezing up on me. I'll run a export new to. There we go. So I'm typing out some layers to be created here. Maybe they're not even in my layer list already. See a line, I don't believe that was there. Layer Boss will allow me to just type this out, whatever I want, deciding on this right on the fly here, and then inserting them right into my drawing and creating them automatically. So it's as simple as that. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but you can run through this and just type it out exactly as you wish. So let's go ahead and save that. Come back here. Here's our drawing without any object layer settings, right? And now we can run the create edit object layers. We can browse to that new Excel file. I'll turn on my create new layers and I hit next. And we did not save that Excel file. There we go. It's creating new layers for C-Align and C-Align Anno. It's updating the alignment table, so on and so forth. We could do all the way down the line here. So I hit OK to that, and I can very quickly set this information. Again, if we're working in here, I have to click into this. It's a one at a time kind of thing. If I have yet a new layer to make, I have to go into yet another interface. Nothing faster than just simply typing out the values as you wish them to be. So that's how you might use Layer Boss for building out a brand new template or really overhauling your templates in the first place. We looked at stripping out survey layers and things like that on an export from an old template because perhaps you want to break it into two new templates. Layer Boss helps with that. A couple weeks ago, I discussed Survey Template Manager. It's a similar kind of tool set that works with description key sets and figure prefix databases, and it does all of the same kind of stuff with Excel. In the future, we'll talk about Template Tracker and Line Type Manager some more. So I want to show one more scenario where we look at perhaps updating project standards. So let's say I've got a project drawing here. This is an XSpace, an existing survey file I have. And this drawing was made a while ago, and there's been a change to perhaps the plotting and the coloring of the layering and so forth. How do I push those updates into project drawings like this? Well, perhaps I've already maintained, I've got my Excel sheet from my template. I've updated my template. And that's my survey template layers here. Here's my survey template layers. I want this list of layers to be pushed or updated in my existing project drawings, right? This is an export. It's what I use to maintain my current survey template. But old project drawings, they're not going to update just because I update the template. Well, with Layer Boss, using Excel, I can take these settings and I can push them into project drawings. Normally I'd have to come to my layer manager and manually change a lot of these settings, colors, plot styles, and so forth. Let's go ahead and turn on all these layers to start with. Okay, so that's how my drawing looks right now. And perhaps the new standards have a lot of different color changes. Well, let's go ahead and run the create edit DWG layers command. We'll go out and browse to that survey template layers Excel file. Hit open. I'm going to tell it to sync to drawing layers. And then I get an update here. There's a bunch of updated layers. A lot of the colors have changed on them. So that might have a lot of ramifications on how things plot. So if I hit OK, we should see our drawing standards update, and all the colors on many of these different layers respond to it, as well as plot settings, transparency, anything you might be using in those layer properties. We can push that from Excel into these existing project drawings. So a very easy way and a stable, universal way to update existing project drawings to perhaps new standards that you created. So that's all I wanted to show you today. I just want to cover a few conclusions about Layer Boss. Why did we make this? It's because we don't want to waste time with template management. Again, so many guys out there, you're really savvy CAD users. As a result, you've got a lot on your plates, a lot to work with. You might be doing production and IT, as we said, and also having to maintain all these CAD standards. Anything we can do to speed that up makes a big difference. With Layer Boss, what we're doing is we're looking at managing our entire layer manager and our object layer settings in Excel. Those are both table type interfaces. there's no faster table type interface than Excel itself. And so let us work in there and simply sync that back to our templates and drawings. And so what you'll do going forward with Layer Boss is you'll have a set of Excel templates, if you will, to maintain those standards. And you would do that work in Excel, and anytime you want to push that stuff to your templates, you'd simply run that sync command and update those standards. If there was a big overhaul happening, perhaps you need to make a new template itself, you can go and run an export from your existing templates, make all those changes, and then push that stuff into a new template. And then, of course, if these standards need to get pushed out to existing projects, drawings that were already made months or years ago even, and you want to update those project drawings, you can do that very easily with Layer Boss. You can also do it with Survey Template Manager, pushing out changes to your description key set and your figure prefix database in a similar way to what we had done here. So thanks again for watching, everyone. I'll hang out a bit. If you've got any questions, feel free to type them into the questions interface and go to webinar. And we'll go ahead and address those now if you have any questions. As always, these are recorded. They're put on our YouTube website where you can view them. You can share them with other co-workers in case there was something you missed that I went over today. Be sure to check out our upcoming events. We've got in a couple weeks Line Type Manager and the CIM Manager Suite and Template Tracker. I mentioned those previously. That will round out the deep dive sessions on all of our CIM Manager Suite tools that we just released a few weeks back. And then we're going to jump into the new tools that are released with our end user suite, the CIM Project Suite. And starting in June, we'll have an introduction to the entire suite, and then an introduction to Point File Converter, Sheet Generator, and Data Wizard. We'll get into those into the summer, and those are some of the new and robust tool sets that we have pushed out with the new CIM Project Suite. So thanks again for watching. You guys have a good day.